At midnight, nothing happens to you. No buildings collapse, no alarms go off, no laws of physics change. And yet, in finance, midnight can destroy a company. Miss a deadline by a few hours and suddenly a loan defaults. A bond triggers penalties. Access to credit disappears. Assets get seized. Careers end. Not because anything real changed in the world, but because the clock said so. That's the strange power of deadlines. They don't move money, they move consequences. And over time, finance learned something uncomfortable. You don't need force to control behavior. You just need a date. This matters now because we live inside a system that never stops setting clocks. Quarterly earnings, monthly payments, daily margin calls, interest calculated by the second. Finance doesn't just measure time, it weaponizes it. To see how this happened, we need to strip deadlines of their polite image. Because deadlines sound harmless, organizational, responsible. But in finance, a deadline is rarely about efficiency. It's about leverage. Originally, deadlines were practical. Farmers paid after harvest. Merchants settled after ships returned. Time matched reality. But modern finance broke that connection. Money became abstract. Contracts became standardized. And suddenly, time didn't need to reflect the real world anymore. It just needed to be enforceable. Take debt. On paper, debt is simple. Borrow now, repay later. But notice the asymmetry. The borrower has to hit exact dates. The lender just has to wait. Miss a payment, and the cost of time explodes. Late fees, penalty interest, credit damage. Time accelerates against you. And this isn't accidental. Deadlines turn uncertainty into pressure. They force decisions. A company facing a bond maturity doesn't ask, is this the best long-term move? It asks, how do we survive this quarter? That question alone reshapes behavior. This is why refinancing exists, why rollovers exist, why extend and pretend exists. Deadlines create cliffs. Finance builds bridges for those who can afford them. If you're powerful, deadlines are flexible. They can be pushed, restructured, negotiated. If you're weak, deadlines are final. Same calendar, different rules. This dynamic quietly governs almost everything. Look at corporations. Public companies don't fail because they're unproductive. They fail because they miss expectations on a schedule. Quarterly reporting turned businesses into time machines obsessed with the next 90 days. Executives know this. Invest in research that pays off in 10 years, or cut costs now and beat estimates. The deadline answers for them. Markets don't reward patience, they reward punctuality, not long-term value, short-term compliance. And it's not just companies. Individuals live inside this too. Mortgage payments, credit card due dates, student loan schedules. Your financial health isn't judged by what you earn, it's judged by whether you show up on time. Miss once and time turns hostile. Interest compounds faster, options disappear, access tightens. Deadlines convert small mistakes into long-term damage. Now zoom out. Financial markets don't eliminate risk, they reschedule it. Losses get delayed, gains get pulled forward. As long as deadlines are met, everything looks stable. This is why crises feel sudden. Nothing breaks gradually on the surface because time absorbs the stress. Debt gets rolled, payments get deferred, maturities get extended. The clock keeps moving forward, carrying unresolved problems with it. Until one deadline can't be met, and then everything collapses at once. The crisis wasn't sudden, it was stored. Deadlines are the storage mechanism. Even inflation fits into this. Inflation quietly rewrites deadlines. Future obligations shrink in real terms. Debts become easier to pay back later. Savings lose value over time. Inflation doesn't hit evenly, it hits based on timing. If you can raise prices quickly, you win. If your wages lag, you lose. Time again picks winners. This is why inflation feels unfair, because it punishes waiting. Now, here's the part nobody likes to say out loud. Modern finance creates artificial urgency on purpose. Deadlines force action without debate. You don't need to threaten anyone. You don't need violence. You don't even need persuasion. You just set a date. Miss it, and consequences trigger automatically. No emotion, no negotiation, no context. Time becomes enforcement. Silent, impersonal, efficient. This is why the system feels exhausting, not because it's complicated, but because it never stops counting. Every second adds interest, every delay increases cost, every pause is penalized. Even rest has a price. And yet, those with enough leverage can slow time down. They refinance, they restructure, they delay consequences. Time bends around power. This is why finance isn't really about money. Money is just the unit. Finance is about controlling when things happen, who waits, who doesn't, who absorbs delay, who escapes it. And this brings us to the uncomfortable question: what happens to problems that don't fit inside deadlines? Climate change doesn't pay quarterly. Infrastructure doesn't pay in election cycles. Demographics don't care about bond maturities. These problems require patience, long horizons, delayed rewards. But in a system that discounts the future by default, the long term is always losing. Not because people don't care, but because the clock doesn't. So if deadlines are the most powerful tool in finance, if time is the real enforcement mechanism, then the real question isn't how much money we have, it's who gets to decide when the bill is due, and what happens when the clock finally runs out for everyone at once.